How you doing, guys? This is Eric from rulethewasteland.com and secretoftheinternet.com. I'm using my webcam now for these just videos where I am probably just going to be doing talking, commentary, that sort of thing. It's still a HD video quality. Obviously, video quality isn't insanely important when you're talking about just me sitting here talking to the camera, and it makes it a lot easier to set up. This camera has a better field of view for doing these type of videos. It records directly to the computer, so I don't have to transfer it. I can attach an additional mic to get more consistent sound quality than using the onboard mic. I can use my lapel mic if I want, which I'll probably try next. I can use this blue snowball mic, and I have another mic on a boom that I'll try out later. And the camera that I have is very good video quality and everything, but it doesn't have the ability to take an external microphone. It takes a little bit more setup, the tripod, as opposed to just plugging this thing into my laptop or the desktop. So there's a lot of reasons why I'm probably going to be using the webcam from now on for just these commentary type videos. But let me know what you guys think, if it's really a huge decrease. It doesn't look like it is to me. It looks like the video quality is maybe even better for this type of videos because you can't see every tiny little imperfection that you could with the other cameras, less focusing issues, stuff like that. Anyways, what I wanted to talk about today was going off a little, expounding more on the videos that I've done recently on how I don't think the polls are accurate regarding Trump and all the things that we've seen happen since then. There were a lot of people in the comments, not a lot, but some, who really were not convinced. They think it's just sour grapes when you come out and say the polls are not accurate and things like that. And you should trust the statisticians and things that I said. But look at what I was talking about in the polls. I'm not necessarily even saying that the polls were rigged, although I do believe that some are. And when you see all the evidence that's come out from the WikiLeaks Podesta emails and all those things that show direct collusion between the Hillary Clinton campaign, the DNC, and these major media outlets. We're talking about like literal emails where they ask the campaign to clear their stories, talking about people saying they can make things up if they need to from financial institutions and things like that, saying here's what we're going to say, but we can make stuff up if we need to, all sorts of things like that, showing direct collusion. Some of these poll people, one of them was shown as being a direct Hillary Clinton getting direct support from the Hillary Clinton campaign, directly paid by them. The guy who owns the company was working with the Democratic campaigns and things like that. So insane conflict of interest, not necessarily illegal, but obvious conflicts of interest if you're looking at getting a real picture about what's going on. And that's just the direct collusion. That has nothing to do with the flawed methodology like we're talking about. I just read more articles coming out. Even mainstream legacy news is finally starting to breach the subject that these polls may not be showing the real picture because of things like recently with the Trump scandalous sex talk tape, whatever came out. We'd seen a little bit of dip in the polls, but what was very interesting about those results is you see more dip in men supporting Trump, where he has a huge lead already. That was the demographic that was most affected by these leaked nasty comments, so to speak. And it was the support with women, although much lower than Hillary Clinton, according to most polls, remained relatively flat. So what we kind of can see from that, and what some articles that I've even read supporting this as well, is that these men are not really changing their support for Donald Trump. When it comes down to it, most of them are still, who were supporting Trump before this, most of them are still going to pull the lever for him after the fact. The people who are really appalled and going to all these lengths to virtue signal about how evil he is, the never Trumpers and these really liberal guys and just, miserable excuses for men, they were never going to vote for Trump. They're trumpeting about how evil he is. They're not changing their vote. They were not saying that they were going to vote for Trump. They're never planning on voting for Trump. But the other guys are just keeping quiet about it. And I'll try to find the article that I'm talking about and put a link in the description below. Is that barring any massive sort of scandal, there's really kind of a myth of this true undecided voter. I mentioned this in my past video, but most independents, if they're registered as independent, if they identify as independent, most of them are lean one direction or another, because people are not just blank slates when it comes to every individual election. They have ideas about the way they think the world should be, about the way they think policy should be handled and how decisions should be made. Even if those ideas are centrist more so than extreme right or left, that doesn't necessarily make them truly undecided. They still tend to go one way or another on certain issues. Now, they may be sort of like libertarian-ish or mixed in the sense that they're, fiscally conservative, socially liberal, and so because of that, whichever issue is at the forefront of their mind for any different election, that will sway their vote, but they're not really undecided in that sense. So there's not a huge group of people that are just ready to be swung one way or another based on any minor scandal like that. So we see the Trump tape revelation has caused people mostly just to go underground with their support, especially men, because you see the sort of social capital is more likely to be lost from men in this situation, being viewed as like they support someone who's a so-called sex abuser or sex assault proponent or something like that than women, because women don't tend to get that sort of attacks as often. They may get them, but women aren't primarily the accused party when it comes to sexual assaults. They're not the ones who are going to get the brunt of that attack. So it's the men that are much more reluctant now to say that they support Trump than the women, even though in both groups the actual support has probably changed very little, especially because we've seen when this thing first came out, people thought some people maybe were just like, really upset by that, people who were thinking about voting Trump. But now we've seen the media go to such extraordinary lengths with all these many outright bogus claims. Most of them have been, proven to be false, like the woman who said she was, and they're coming out from these stories and accusations from literal decades ago. We're not even talking about 5 or 10 years ago. We're talking 20, 30 years ago with these stories of unwanted sexual advances, and they're just now bringing it up within 3 weeks in the election. Not suspicious at all, of course, but some of them have been outright debunked, like the one woman who said she was on an airplane with Trump and he lifted up the armrest in the first class section and like groped her or whatever. And first of all, she said some bizarre things, like if he'd stayed above the waist, she would have been fine with it. And then there was a witness who was on the plane, said he was sitting on the seat next to both of them, and he remembers because he recognized Trump, I guess, and saw nothing of the sort, saw the woman flirting with him the whole time, and that he didn't do anything physical. And then, of course, you look back and they actually pull up images and schematics of these planes and show that the armrests don't even lift up. So on those type of first class seats, that back then in the 80s or whenever this was, that the armrests weren't even movable. So it throws the whole story into doubt. All these stories, most of these people, or at least many of them, have shown to have literal connections to Clinton and Clinton campaign, Democratic campaigns, and things like that. With one of the women actually sharing a phone number in one of her profiles with the Clinton Foundation, and just bizarre connections like that. And they've gotten so over the top that most people are just realizing that this is just a barrage of attacks and is not really any merit to them. So that's helping the more they come out with this, the more ridiculous it seems at this point. It's actually hurting them, I think, or it's actually taking away credibility from these claims more so than adding to it the more that come out. Because now it's just getting to the point it's like ridiculous. They expect everyone to believe that this guy's just been running around like a complete savage, assaulting people for 30 years, and none of these people said anything for decades until 2 weeks before the election. That just doesn't add up, especially when you find out they're all linked. You find people who have actually come out after the fact and said, hey, no, they quoted me wrong. This was not supposed to be negative. Things like that. And people who've written those stories that were debunked come back and writing other stories, primarily the New York Times. A lot of people, when they've contacted and tried to do even the most basic level of fact-checking, wouldn't touch the story, and the New York Times ran with it. People are just not thinking that there's any merit to most of these stories. They think, yeah, Trump's probably a sexually aggressive guy. He's probably rude and boorish, but he's not this sexual assaulter that they're trying to make him out to be. But the interesting fact to me was that aspect of the women's support actually staying more or less level and him losing ground with men. Now, most of these things are starting to go back up, and even recently there was one poll, I believe it was Rasmussen. There's a couple Rasmussen polls that showed him ahead, but one in particular showed him gaining huge ground with black people and African Americans, and that's really a big deal because I remember Bill Still had done a video a while back saying that Ben Carson's original platform was that if you can maintain support among all the red states and normal Republicans, like if you can just get all the votes of the people who are going to vote Republican no matter what, and then get about 18% of the black vote, you'll win. And that was his stance, was that he was saying, because I'm black, I can get 18% of the black vote, I think. And that was like his stance on that. And Trump is getting near those numbers or even above them in some of these polls. and he's doing a lot better among the other groups than Ben Carson would be doing as well. So it's very interesting to see that level of support among these different demographics. I think that is where I will cut off this video for now. I've got another video I'm going to be doing coming up pretty soon, on probably today as well, on all these scandals that have come out. I didn't want to make this video too long, the Hillary Clinton barrage of WikiLeaks and whatnot. So stay tuned for that one, and thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys later.